Robert Raymond Smith-Barry was born to elite Anglo-Irish parents in 1886. He attended Eton, where his housemaster said that he was a terrible boy who would come to nothing. Having given up on education, he then decided to become a concert pianist, and after this, a diplomat. But in 1911, he decided to learn to fly. He went to Salisbury Plain to the Central Flying School, where he learned to fly in a plane like this, a Morris Farnham Longhorn. It was just a few years after the Wright brothers had invented flying. The plane was known as a birdcage because it had so many intricate flying wires, students reckoned not even a canary would escape from it. In 1912, the Royal Flying Corps was formed, and Robert was in their number 1 course, where he graduated as a flight lieutenant. In August 1914, when war was declared, Robert set off in a plane just like this one, a BE-8A. And just a few days after arriving in France, he was flying this plane, or one just like it. When the engine stalled, he crashed. The man flying with him was killed, and Robert's leg was badly broken. It was during the retreat from Mons, and the hotel that Robert had been taken to was soon overrun by Germans. He had to make a run for it under his own powers and managed to get all the way back to London. His leg was so badly broken that it was well into 1915 before he got back on his feet. He became a flight instructor and hobbled around on a crutch, giving instructions from the ground. When he flew, he insisted on landing his planes with the full throttle, which was unusual at the time, but he was just so nervous about the planes stalling and crashing. He really wanted to get back to the front, and so he joined 60 Squadron that was forming at Gosport, and they were deployed to France, where they took part in the Battle of the Somme. And Robert Raymond Smith-Barry flew this plane, a Moran Bullet. As a flight commander, he was completely horrified by the carnage that was happening. Young British pilots were so badly trained that they couldn't really engage in air combat. The average life expectancy of a new pilot on the front was under 2 weeks. Smith-Barry agitated to be sent home because he wanted to reorganise the way in which pilots were trained. He formed the School of Special Flying at Gosport in 1917 and began his experimental training methods. Here he is with his wife Kitty and 2 of his flight instructors. He used this plane, the Avro, which was stable and safe to learn to fly on. He believed that all pilots should be able to fly their planes to the very limit of their ability. He expected them to try every stunt possible, and the pilots had great fun landing their planes in the hangars from full dives and other crazy antics. He also reorganised the way flight instruction happened. He invented a special Gosport tube, a tube that allowed the instructee to be instructed by the instructor. Before that, it had all been hand signals and pointing and gesturing, and it hadn't worked very well. He completely changed everything, and his influence was revolutionary. He believed that pilots should fly as many planes as possible, and here he is testing out a captured Albatross Scout in 1917 at Gosport. It has to be said, his influence was great, but he was also deeply, deeply eccentric. He'd been known to deal with bump that built up in the squadron office by setting the office on fire. He also set fire to several aeroplanes that were left around another base. So his influence probably wasn't as great in the Royal Air Force as it could have been, as people put him down as an eccentric. But he was still a brilliant man, and he's remembered today as the person who taught the world to fly.